Love shock. Face screaming in fear. Demet Özdemir has finally spoken out, and her words have left fans across the world shaken. With Yaman building his new life in Rome, surrounded by fame, international projects, and constant media attention, Demet has revealed that while his body may be in Italy, her heart, and perhaps his, remains firmly in Istanbul. The story begins with a quiet interview that no one expected to become headline news. Demet, known for her elegance and her ability to keep her private life carefully guarded, suddenly opened a door that fans had been waiting years to peek behind. When asked about her thoughts on Cannes' success abroad and their shared past, she didn't offer the usual vague, diplomatic answer. Instead, her voice trembled with sincerity as she admitted, "People think distance erases everything. But love doesn't understand borders. Cannes may be in Rome, but the heart is still here." Those words sent a shockwave through social media. Within minutes, hashtags like #LoveShock, #DemetSpeaks, and #Cannes in Rome Heart in Istanbul were trending worldwide. Fans flooded Twitter with emotional reactions, writing things like, "She still loves him, you can hear it in her voice," and "This is the confession we've been waiting for." Instagram fan pages immediately began creating edits, pairing Demet's words with emotional scenes of her and Cannes from their iconic series, capturing the raw emotion of a love story that refuses to fade. What struck people most was Demet's honesty. For years, she has carried the weight of a relationship that the public never stopped speculating about. She has smiled on red carpets, posed for magazine covers, and spoken about her career with professionalism, but rarely, if ever, has she addressed the subject of Cannes so openly. This time, however, was different. "It's not about fame," she explained, her eyes glistening as she spoke. "It's about memories that don't leave you. It's about knowing that sometimes, no matter how far someone goes, the connection doesn't disappear." The interviewer, visibly stunned, pressed her, "So, you're saying you still feel connected to him?" Demet hesitated, her lips parting slightly as if weighing every word. Finally, she nodded. "Yes. Because when you've lived something that real, you don't just close the door and walk away. Love doesn't work like that." The audience watching the interview was left in silence, and within hours, the moment was clipped, shared, and replayed millions of times. Fans cried, debated, and speculated endlessly. Some saw it as proof that the love between Demet and Cannes had never truly ended. Others believed it was her way of finding closure, of finally speaking the truth after years of silence. But one thing was undeniable: Demet Özdemir had spoken words that reignited a flame fans thought had gone out forever. The fallout from Demet Özdemir's confession was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, international tabloids splashed her words across their covers. In Italy, headlines screamed, "Demet speaks out, her heart still belongs to Istanbul." Meanwhile, Turkish media called it the love shock that won't die. Across the globe, fans debated whether this was simply nostalgia or a declaration of feelings that still linger. Social media became a battlefield of emotions. On one side were fans who believed Demet's words were proof that her love for Yaman had never faded. "You can see it in her eyes," one fan tweeted. "She still feels everything, even after all these years." On the other side were skeptics, arguing that Demet was only speaking poetically, reflecting on the past rather than confessing current emotions. "She's moved on," one comment read. "This isn't about Cannes anymore, it's about closure." But the truth lay in the details of her delivery. Her voice cracked when she said the word heart. Her hands trembled as she described the bond that doesn't disappear. These subtle signs didn't go unnoticed. Body language experts were invited onto talk shows to analyze her every movement. One expert explained, "When someone pauses before admitting connection, it means they're fighting their own emotions." Demet wasn't acting, she was speaking from the depths of her soul. Meanwhile, Yaman's silence became deafening. In Rome, he continued with his projects, appearing in photo shoots and public events, yet never once addressing Demet's words. This silence only amplified the drama. Fans speculated endlessly, was he choosing not to respond out of respect? Or was he quietly acknowledging her confession in his own way, by saying nothing at all? Italian gossip magazines suggested that Can had seen the interview and was visibly moved. One insider claimed he was caught off guard. He didn't expect her to speak so openly. But those who know him say he hasn't stopped thinking about it since. Whether or not this was true, the possibility was enough to send fans into a frenzy. And then, another layer of drama emerged. Demet posted a cryptic message on Instagram just days after the interview aired. A simple photo of the Bosphorus at night, captioned with 3 words, "Still beats here." The post exploded, gathering millions of likes and thousands of comments within hours. Fans interpreted it as a direct reference to her statement, her heart still in Istanbul, even while Can lived in Rome. The comments section was filled with emotional responses. "This is for Can, we all know it," and "She's not over him, this proves it." Some even tagged Can directly, demanding he acknowledge the message. Through it all, Demet remained poised but quiet. She had spoken her truth, and now she let the world interpret it however they wanted. But her words lingered in the air, heavier than ever. And so, the question grew louder: was this the beginning of something new, or the final chapter of a story that never really ended? As Demet Özdemir's confession continued to make headlines, the fascination with her connection to Yaman reached unprecedented levels. Fans around the world weren't just talking about her words, they were reliving the entire story of their love, piece by piece, as though time itself had rewound. Clips from their most famous scenes in Erkenci Kus resurfaced on every platform. Edits flooded TikTok, pairing Demet's emotional words with Can's most intense on-screen gazes. Can may be in Rome, but the heart is still in Istanbul, played over slow-motion shots of their kisses and tearful goodbyes, leaving millions of viewers in tears. In fan communities, the debate grew more intense. Some insisted Demet's words were a direct invitation for Can to respond, a subtle message sent across borders. Others argued that it was simply her way of acknowledging the past while moving forward. But no one could deny the fire she had reignited. Italian gossip shows dedicated entire segments to speculating whether Can would break his silence. One host dramatically asked, "How long can he stay quiet when the world is waiting for his answer?" Another declared, "This isn't just about romance. This is about unfinished business that refuses to be buried." Back in Turkey, cultural commentators weighed in on the emotional significance of her words. "Istanbul is not just a city for Demet," one writer explained. "It represents memories, beginnings, and a love that shaped her. When she says her heart is still in Istanbul, she's saying her heart is still with him." Meanwhile, Yaman carried on with his life in Rome, publicly, at least. He was photographed leaving a restaurant with friends, looking stylish and calm, but insiders whispered a different story. One source close to his team hinted he saw the interview. It shook him. He's thinking about how to respond, but Can doesn't rush these things. He knows every word will be dissected. Adding fuel to the fire, Demet was spotted days later at a charity event, where she was asked directly about the interview. She didn't deny a thing. Instead, she smiled faintly and replied, "Sometimes the heart speaks louder than the mind." That single sentence went viral instantly, adding yet another layer of mystery and emotion to the saga. Social media exploded once again. On Twitter, fans trended the phrase "the heart speaks" alongside hashtags like #CanDemet and #LoveShock. Instagram reels showing side-by-side comparisons of Can in Rome and Demet in Istanbul captioned, "Two cities, one story." What struck fans most was how unpolished Demet seemed during these moments. Gone was the carefully crafted image of the glamorous star. Instead, she appeared as a woman caught between past and present, between love and loss, between silence and truth. And so, the anticipation only grew. Would Can finally address the confession that had taken the world by storm? Or would he, as some feared, allow the silence to be his only response? The world was holding its breath. After Demet Özdemir's emotional confession, that though Yaman lived in Rome, the heart was still in Istanbul, millions waited for his reaction. Would he remain silent, letting her words linger unanswered, or would he finally speak, reigniting one of the most powerful love stories modern television had ever given us? In the days that followed, the silence itself became news. Headlines screamed, "Can Yaman's silence is louder than words," and "Demet speaks, Ken stays quiet, what does it mean?" Talk shows dissected the strategy behind his lack of response. Some experts argued that silence was his way of respecting her vulnerability. Others insisted it was his form of acknowledgement, a quiet confession without needing to say a word. But fans weren't satisfied with silence. They demanded clarity. Hashtags like #AnswerHerCan and #CanDemetForever trended across Twitter. TikTok videos layered her voice over footage of him walking the streets of Rome, captioned, "She waits, he stays silent." The longing was palpable, not just between two stars, but in the hearts of millions who had invested in their story for years. Meanwhile, Demet herself continued to add subtle sparks to the fire. Days after the storm broke, she appeared at another public event and was once again asked about her words. This time, her response was even more direct: "Love doesn't vanish just because borders exist. Sometimes, the heart stays where it first learned how to beat." The crowd gasped, and social media erupted. Fans declared this was confirmation she was still speaking about Can. Insiders reported that Can was deeply affected by her openness. One source close to him claimed he watched every second of the interview, and he saw the reaction it caused. He hasn't spoken publicly, but privately, it hit him hard. Another insider hinted, "Don't be surprised if his next project or appearance carries a message for her." Can is a man who communicates with action, not words. The mystery only fueled more speculation. Was he preparing a response? Would he choose to let his next move, whether a statement, a role, or even a public appearance with Demet, be his answer? Fans, of course, were relentless. Edits paired Demet's line, "The heart is still here," with Can's past interviews where he had spoken about Istanbul as his soul's anchor. Instagram reels went viral with captions like, "Two hearts, two cities, one story." Italian media framed the situation as a romantic tragedy, calling it La Storia d'amore sospesa, the suspended love story. Turkish outlets, on the other hand, described it as a cultural phenomenon, saying, "This is not just celebrity gossip. This is about two people who shaped the dreams of a generation." And then came the most haunting moment yet. During an event in Rome, Ken was asked by a journalist about love. He didn't mention Demet, but his answer sent chills through the crowd: "Some loves don't belong to one city. They belong everywhere you go. And some hearts, they never leave where they started." The internet exploded. Was this his indirect answer to Demet? Fans believed so. TikTok filled with side-by-side comparisons of his words and hers. "The heart is still in Istanbul" versus "Some hearts never leave where they started." The parallels were impossible to ignore. And so, the love story that had once seemed finished was suddenly alive again, burning, breathing, and more captivating than ever. Whether it was a reunion in the making or simply a confession of feelings too powerful to bury, one truth was undeniable: the bond between Yaman and Demet Özdemir had never truly died. For fans, it was a reminder that love isn't always about happy endings. Sometimes, it's about the echoes of what was, and the possibility of what could still be. Sometimes, it's about two people separated by distance but connected by a thread no one else can see. As the world waits for the next move, whether it be a spoken word, a subtle gesture, or the silence of two hearts still beating in rhythm, one phrase continues to echo across fan communities: "Ken may be in Rome, but the heart is still in Istanbul." Because in the end, this isn't just their story. It has become everyone's story, a tale of love, distance, regret, and hope that refuses to fade away.